Welcome and welcome back to my channel. I'm Amanda and today I'm playing with a counterfeit kit challenge. I'm playing with ScrapaSketch and this is the sketch from Free Friday as a design team member. And I'm also playing with Mixed Media Mayhem. So on the sketch, you noticed probably as quickly as it was, there is a circle picture. And I struggle with circle pictures. So I decided that I was going to cut out this is an 8-inch circle, and I'm going to use a few pictures in the circle. And so I did a little bit of this off camera because it did take some fussing and thinking and that kind of thing. I could do this with a smaller circle too, and that would be okay. There I was just trying to see if I could put it back into my circle maker and cut it nice, and it was not going to work. So I'm just going to cut it out. You could do this with a smaller circle too. And then I used this as a base because it helped me figure out where I wanted those pictures to go. Because if you're like me, I have most of my pictures printed out as a 4x6, and then that makes it really, really difficult to cut them as circles, and definitely not like you're a little bit smaller than a 4-inch circle if you have a 4x6 picture. And so the other part of that is on the sketch, it was a bigger than 4x6, I think, and I wanted to use all these pictures, so this works out really nice. The bottom right and the top right and the bottom left, are the same picture, and it really doesn't matter. I just wanted something to fill in that space. I could have used that space as well with like cardstock or paper or something like that too, and that would have been fine, but I had these 4 pictures. And so I'm using my circle maker to make a couple of circles out of this pattern paper. I'm really like this pattern paper, and it's older than old. And I'm gonna cut this a little smaller than I need. The 8 probably would have been better, but I still need it bigger than that. This one I think was 6. I did one a little bit smaller. I'm like, nope. I thought I might maybe change around where the big and the smaller circle was in the sketch, but I don't really like that. And then I'm glad I have 2 of these pieces of paper, because I'm like, why do I prefer that 8-inch? And the 8-inch is still not going to be big enough, but I have a second piece of paper. So I'm going to do this as the 8-inch. And it cut funny because I wasn't very careful. And so there's that piece that'll come off. But, well, it is what it is. And then I'm looking at this and going, this is not quite standing out like I want it to. What do I want to do? I thought about changing my pictures to a smaller one. That's what I'm doing there. Like, do I have enough room to change it to a smaller? I didn't think so. And then looking at it, I'm like, nope, I totally don't. Then I thought about piecing this back in and trying to make it bigger, and that's not going to work either. Like, it just... So I go and find a couple bowls. And so I found this really big bowl that I'm going to use to trace, and looks like it's probably about 10 inches. And so this is going to give me a much bigger circle. So that'll be awesome. And so I'm just fussy cutting around it because obviously I'm not using my circle cutter. And I'm going to use this piece inside it. And so there's going to be a layered bit. And then because I've done this piece, I am going to do black around the other piece as well. And then I can get started on my mixed media mayhem. So I'm going to cut this circle not very well. So it was one of those days. This has like 2 puncture holes, and I missed the puncture holes completely when I was doing it this way. So you can see that it moves, and I'm like, did it move? Yep, it totally moved. Okay, now make sure I line it up with a puncture hole, and then I can cut it, but it didn't cut all the way. And then I'm going to fussy cut the rest of it, because whatever. Whatever. So on it goes. like so, like so. This will go here. And so the gist of the sketch is there. My photo block is a lot bigger, but it still gives you the thought process of it. And now I'm going to work on my Mixed Media Mayhem. So the prompts for Mixed Media Mayhem today were watercolor, packaging technique, and fibers. So this is my watercolor. And so I just added some water to this really old set. And then I'm using an old brush that's leaving hairs behind. That's why I was moving my hand across that. And then I'm just going to do like this smoochy kind of thing with this wonky brush. And I like the texture that gives. We're outside building a box around the strawberry patch because the deer kept eating them. We didn't want to feed the deer. So that's what we're doing in the pictures. And so I thought the green would work. This is early in May of 2020. I think it's 2020. This is, yeah, it's 2020. Before we got our dog, while we were still we were definitely still on lockdown. And we're just around when I don't know, might be 2019. I'd have to look it up now, but I think it's 2020. But now I'm doing the packaging technique and I'm using the red, which is actually like a pinky color in this set. And then this orange. And then just using my brush and putting it on the packaging and then turning it over on these flowers so that I could add some color to them. Which is what I wanted to do when I put this paper in my counterfeit kit anyway, is I was like, these would be fun to put color on. So there we go, putting color on them. Yay. Yeah. So there's that one. And then I'm going to do the same kind of process with this. Because I want the centers to be orange, I'm just going to add the orange to start with. And then I'm going to add more water and more pink, and then I'm going to keep some of that orange on there so it gets the packaging idea too. And then more water, and those circles are done. So now I'm going to get this on here. So matte my circles in black, and it just gives the size I need, and I can still use that paper then. Yay! And then I'm just going to trim this off. I might put that in my scrap bin. I'm not entirely sure. I might not. And then this one goes on here. And then on top. And so I am going to center that. I thought maybe being a little wonky would be okay, but I decided that centering it would, visually, it was more pleasing to my eye today, so that's what I decided. And so now I have the top circle and the bottom circle and the photo block circle, which is a good portion of what's going on in the sketch. And that's pretty cute. Then I'm going to decide how I want to get, like, where. Oh, and I missed a little bit of green down here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more there instead of having a big white spot. And then that looks good there. And I flipped my glass mat around, mostly because I spilled something underneath it. And then, so I cleaned up, and then I put it up on upside down, and now it's annoying me. So, and so the third prompt for Mixed Media Mayhem is fibers. So these two little pieces, like the half circle and this word bit, are actually fabric pieces from Hip Kit Club. And the blue one says, "Here we are together having fun." And the orangey yellow one says, "Made for the sunshine." So I think that works really well for a strawberry patch. And then these butterflies that I've had forever are also Hip Kit Club. and they're also fabric. So I'm going to add those on. They do have a paper backing, so that makes it easy to stick on with glue, and I use the foam adhesive so that those wings are propped up a little bit. Gives a little bit of dimension on my relatively flat page. And I'm overlapping that half circle on my pictures because I thought, why not? And it's kind of in the spot on the sketch where the embellishments would go if my circle was smaller. so I'm going to use it anyway. And I went and grabbed some alphas. I did want to use the larger, darker ones, but I did not have enough R's. And then I didn't have a Y. So I could have made R's, but if I made R's, I wasn't going to be able to make a Y for what I had left of those kind of pieces. I guess the X I could have made into a Y looking at it now, but I didn't. So I used the smaller pink and orange ones, which ties the orange in from the fabric piece anyway to spell out strawberry, which didn't make you watch all of that go on. And then out of the big ones, I'm going to do the patch. So my layout is strawberry patch because that's what we're protecting, working on. So that goes on. I think this is actually 2019 when we did this, but I think, I don't know, I'd have to look. It's making my brain like do things because that was a long time ago. Ish. It was ish time ago. Lots of times I scrap much older stuff. So and then I decided one more butterfly here. I'm being a little bit distracted today, and I pulled out these jewels. And so I did think for a half a second of doing a butterfly trail because these are like in long connected pieces. And then I decided, no, I am not the biggest butterfly trail person. I don't think I've done butterfly trails, and to each their own. I don't have a problem with them on other people's layouts. I just find them funny looking on mine for some reason. And whatever. So these are the darker pink and the lighter pink to tie in the strawberry patch letters, and the pink on the for the watercolor. And I thought that worked really well. And that is this layout all done. So for Mixed Media Mayhem, it was packaging technique, watercolor, and fiber. So there's my packaging, my watercolor, and my fiber. I must have tapped it off screen, but you can see all my fibers too. And then this is also a ScrapaSketch design team layout. So make sure you take a look at what some of the other ladies have done with this sketch too. You can play along with it on the Facebook group. And I will have a discount code here coming up for 10% off their printables and books and stencils. So Amanda10 at ScrapaSketch.com gives you 10% off. And I will also have Counterfeit Kit Challenge and Mixed Media Mayhem playlist linked below. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate the time that you take to be here, to like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you so much. Have yourself a wonderful day.